Dynasty rookie drafts are underway. A lot of people drafting teams, and here are 7 mistakes you need to avoid in your Dynasty rookie drafts. Every single year, we bring up these same topics because every single year, we need reminders of what it looks like to make these mistakes so you don't learn them the hard way. You and I, Danny, have made every one of these mistakes the hard way, and we've learned from them. And we'll talk about that throughout the video. The goal is stopping you guys from making said mistakes the hard way. And I'm sure if you guys have made any of these mistakes, feel free to leave them in the comments. What'd you do? This is a safe space. We'll all, bring you up. We won't judge you. We've all done this before.
For sure. And myself and Corey both been playing Dynasty for over 5 years. We have seen and experienced our own fair share of mistakes. You guys are not alone. We're not here to make fun of you. We're not here to say, oh yeah, you guys don't know what you're doing, because we were in that position before, but it's about applying these 7 principles to be able to improve as Dynasty football players.
Yeah. And mistake number 1 will always be the same every single year. This is always the same mistake that people have to remember. What day is it on the calendar? It is April 29th. As we're recording this, it'll probably be May when you guys are drafting for the most part. You have no matchups this week. No one's about to start for your team. You have no needs on your roster. Do not draft for need in the month of May. You don't need an RB2 this second. You don't need a wide receiver 3 this second, a quarterback 3, a starting tight end. You don't need these things right now. Trades are best for filling your needs. We've gotten countless comments, questions with people saying that they've made this mistake over the years. This is one of those lessons that you will have to learn the hard way. Probably. I mean, we can tell you all you want, but until you actually do it, you probably will have to learn this one the hard way.
Yeah, and rather than drafting for need, use your draft board to your advantage. If you need a quarterback, don't take Cam Ward at the 102. Again, we could talk about a lot of micro examples in this video. That's not necessarily the point. The point is, don't reach on a need just because you need that position. Instead of drafting Cam Ward at the 102, say, you know what can the 102 get me on the open market? Or say, you know what, hey, I can't trade this 102 for a veteran. I want to trade down. I want to maneuver my draft board and put myself in a position to draft Cam Ward.
Yeah, and we have a tool to help you with this. We have a trade calculator, which is free to use. You can type in rookie 102 and then go to our rankings specifically if you are a site subscriber using promo code FSE, or you can just use the expert rankings, which is totally free to use. And you can go 102 and look at what kind of quarterbacks you can get. Maybe the 102 can get you close to a Drake May. Maybe the 102 can get you close to a Caleb Williams. Maybe the 102 can get you Patrick Mahomes. Maybe the 102 can get you Bo Nix plus or something like that. Like, that's what you can do with taking advantage of the pick capital that you have. You can also trade down in the rookie draft, which we'll talk about in a second as well. There's tons of things that you can do to address specific needs other than just going, okay, sort draft board by running back. That's my need. I don't care who's on the board. It needs to be a running back.
Yeah, and as you guys can see on the screen with our rankings compared to our expert rankings, yeah, we like Cam Ward, 105. I think that's a perfectly reasonable spot. But if you're at the 102 and you need a quarterback, that doesn't mean you should be selecting him over an Omarion Hampton, Travis Hunter, Tedrow, McMillan, like you can see on the site. The other thing that we do have to recognize is if you did this last year, it did not work out for you. If you needed an RB2 projection and you reached on Jonathan Brooks in the mid-first or Trey Benson in the mid-first, you guys might be hearing this now and being like, no, like nobody took those guys in the first, right? No, we got tons of comments last year of people saying, I needed a running back bad. I took Trey Benson at the 108. I needed a running back bad. I took Jonathan Brooks, even sometimes upwards of the 105, 106. Well, guess what? If you took Jonathan Brooks last year ahead of Drake May, yikes to the asset.
Not to mention Brock Bowers, not to mention Bo Nix, not to like McConkey, Worthy, Brian Thomas Jr. Like, people took these running backs over all of those guys last year. And the next mistake coincides with this one, which is take what the draft class gives you. We didn't have a good running back class last year. We didn't. We all knew it. Everybody knew it wasn't a good running back class. And we knew it was a great quarterback class, and we knew it was a good wide receiver class. And we knew Brock Bowers was a stud at the tight end position, but people still wanted to just go, well, I would rather have the RB1 in the class and the wide receiver 5 in the class or whatever. That's not how you want to draft. The drafting for need aspect of this and taking the best player available is understanding and recognizing that some years the draft class is just better at certain positions than others. The NFL realizes this in the real NFL draft. We got to realize it from a dynasty perspective. If your team sucks, you're rebuilding, you're retooling, or you're still 1 year away, or you're in a house money contender situation where maybe you can compete if things break right for you, taking the best possible asset on the board is the best way to jumpstart that path to contention. Because let's say, hypothetically, last year you were in a house money situation. You didn't need a quarterback 3 or quarterback 4, but you took Drake May at 108 because he fell there. And midway through the season or after the season, now you have a guy who's valued as a first round or borderline first round startup pick in most league markets. Maybe you need a running back now. You can sell Drake May straight up for anybody on the market at that position because you took the best player available.
Exactly. Drafting for value, especially when you're not in a high-end, dire contention situation. Like we're talking about, oh, all of my assets are over 30. This is my last year of contention. Well, first and foremost, you should use that asset to go buy a veteran in that instance. But even still, the majority of situations, 90, 95+% of situations in Dynasty, taking the best player available, focusing what you can use that asset to be able to acquire, whether it's midseason, whether it's the following season, is in your best interest. Think of your players as liquidity on the open market and applying that to this class. Again, each rookie class will be different. 2022, year of the flex. 2023, obviously that elite top end that we had. 2024, last year was the year of the quarterback. We had legitimately 5 quarterbacks that at some points I've seen go off the board in the first round of rookie drafts. Early second round of rookie drafts is at the latest where you're seeing guys like Michael Penix and Bo Nix go off the board. This year's a little bit different. 5 of my top 12 ranked players actually play at the running back position, and each of them figured, in my opinion, at some point in the next year or so to be top 15 dynasty options for the sustainable future. And on the inverse, this is not a good year to need a quarterback. Outside of Cam Ward, obviously the 101, if you want to take him in the mid first, I would say the range for me personally would probably need to be in the 104 to 106 area. But outside of Cam Ward, Jackson Dart's the only other first-round quarterback that we got. Him and Cam Ward are the only 2 quarterbacks comprised in the top 20 of my rankings, compared to having 5 valued, like I said, near that top 12 range last year.
Yeah, again, everybody's made these mistakes, guys. Everybody. I remember I took Zach Wilson over Jamar Chase, guys, in 2021. I took Zach Wilson over Jamar Chase. A, I liked Zach Wilson, the prospect, and B, I wanted a quarterback, and I needed a quarterback for my team, and I thought I needed a quarterback so bad that I took Zach Wilson over Jamar Chase, and I regret that decision. And guess what? Now I look at my rookie draft the way that all smart NFL franchises look at their rookie drafts, which is the Eagles, the Ravens, teams like this, the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers need a receiver this year? Emeka Egbuka? No. It was the best player on their board, so they took him. Did the Philadelphia Eagles need Jalen Carter the year that they drafted him? No, but they drafted him because he was the best player on their board. Did the Ravens need Malachi Starks or Kyle Hamilton when they slid to him? Probably not, but they were the best players on their board. You guys get the picture, especially if you're not competing. Your team needs don't matter. They literally don't. You could have 5 elite top 5 receivers on your dynasty team, all 5 of them. You have Chase, Jefferson, Lamb, Marvin Harrison, whatever. Like you have all these stud wide receivers on your team. And the best receiver on the board is Travis Hunter at 105. Guess who you're taking? Travis Hunter at 105.
Absolutely. We'll talk about Travis Hunter a little bit more in a second. But I mean, a comment that I actually literally read as we were recording this on this video. We put on the 1 quarterback rookie mock you guys will be seeing on, I believe it is Wednesday as we're recording it. There's a comment, RJ Harvey 107. I need running back. No, RJ Harvey not 107. Like that is the example we mean. Like at the end of the day, yes, maybe it's an ideal landing spot. Maybe it's an ideal fit. But I'm not just drafting RJ Harvey over ready-made wide receivers, top 15 overall tight ends, just to fill a running back need.
Yeah. It's RJ Harvey is going to be the running back that gets reached on most likely, I would imagine this year, just because of the draft capital and the fact that he's in a good landing spot and whatnot. But again, don't draft for need, guys. If you need a running back, shop the pick for a running back. Take the best player available, shop one of your other wide receivers for a running back, shop one of your other quarterbacks for a running back, shop future picks for a running back. Don't just take the best running back on the board and pass on. And it usually does happen at running back, which is why we keep emphasizing that. But again, use your picks wisely. Try and do your due diligence, as we always talk about. If there's opportunities to trade down, that is what we're going into right now. Mistake number 3, try to avoid outsmarting the market. We have stances. All of us do. You listening to this, me and Danny speaking on this video right now. We have our stances, our opinions on these players. We are big Travis Hunter guys. Some of you guys in the comments are not big Travis Hunter guys. We are well aware of that. He is our consensus 102 in leagues that we need to take him there. we can do it. We will do it, and we'll probably sleep like a baby doing it because he's Travis Hunter. But if we know our league only values him as the 109, then we don't need to take him that high.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to be in leagues where people are going to say, oh, he's going to play corner. He's overrated. He doesn't sniff BTJ as a talent. These are direct quotes we got from our comment section. So if they're in our comments who are pro Travis Hunter people, I'm sure in other communities, on other channels, people are going to be a lot more wary about Travis Hunter, maybe whether it's the risk of him playing corner, whether they maybe think he's overrated as a wide receiver. There will be pessimists on Travis Hunter. Fine. In those specific leagues, if you do not have to take him at the 102, can you move down to the 105? If you know the league market values Travis Hunter as closer to the 107, 108, 109 because of that risk level, trade down to the 105, pick up an unprotected 2026 first, probably from a playoff team, maybe a mid to late first projection. That would be the most ideal situation. However, what I will say is, even if you're not getting the full market value to deal down, if you were willing to take Travis Hunter at 102, and even if the best offer was 105 plus the 202 this year, that's a free 202 you wouldn't have gotten.
Yeah, and a couple things that we do need to mention. Some people in the comments have mentioned that people are not willing to trade in their leagues. That's something that you're going to know about your league. If you can trade down, do it. Try to trade down is what we should preface this with. And also, don't get cute. Because if you think Travis Hunter will go 106, 107 in your league, and he gets picked 103 after you trade down from the 102, then you're going to be kicking yourself that you didn't take him at the 102 for the 202 that you got in return for moving down to 107. So balancing what the market value actually is, the risk that you don't get him also, and trying to estimate where he'll go. One thing that I like to use as a good rule of thumb is, let's say I think he'll go 107. I'll trade down to 105 and make sure I get good market value, just so I'm still kind of reaching on him by my league's market.
Exactly. Again, you guys are going to know your leagues the best. You're going to know their own tendencies. You're going to know maybe 4 running backs go in the first 6 picks. Maybe people are pushing running backs back because you're in more of a modern league, is what people like to call the running back hater leagues. Basically, you're going to know the most about your own league market more than we do. If you know you can trade down 2 spots to get Travis Hunter, but you can't trade more, you're going to know that inherently. If you know you can trade down from the 102, from the 107 and still comfortably get Travis Hunter because your league values him as the 112 off the board, you're going to know that more than us. All we're saying here is the goal should be, just because you have conviction on a player being the 102 or the 103 like we do with Travis Hunter, doesn't mean in the majority of your leagues, if they don't value him there, you have to take him there. I think the prime example last year was Drake May, a guy that we both would have felt comfortable taking in the top 3 of rookie drafts, but a guy that we constantly saw, the Patriots scheme. Drake May's inaccurate. He's a raw quarterback. We saw some leagues where he was going off the board, the 106, the 107, sometimes even as low as the 109. And in those situations where your league was valuing him that low, could you imagine if you traded down from the 104 to the 106, picked up an extra pick, and you basically just got Drake May plus insulation for, even if that pick was a smash and ended up being Malik Neighbors? Drake May is a guy that I value as a first-round caliber startup player now.
Yeah, there was leagues where I traded down from and obviously Malik Neighbors is a stud, but I did trade down in one league from Malik Neighbors at 103, and I got Drake May at 107 and pocketed a future first out of it. And I was comfortable with that trade-off, and I'm still comfortable with that trade-off because even though Malik Neighbors, I would say, hit bigger than Drake May in year one, he's still very highly valued on the open market. And let's say Drake May never becomes a super crazy franchise quarterback. Well, then I can sell Drake May for a super high amount of money or a high amount of dollar value on the open market right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. At the end of the day here, if you can exploit the market, don't try to outsmart it. Don't just say, hey, I have conviction that RJ Harvey's my 104 in the class, so I'm going to take him as the 104 off the board. Maneuver the board. You don't have to outsmart the market, like Corey said. Exploit it instead.
Yeah, what's in it for you? You look smarter than everyone because you took RJ Harvey 104.
Some people are like that.
Yeah, so there's people like that. There are people like, hey, when we look back at this rookie draft 3 years from now, I want them to be like, he was bold. He took him at 104. It's like, no, you just looked like you gave up value.
Exactly. And that's what I don't think people understand. It's like, yeah, you want to look like you're first to a player, be my guest, but you're inherently increasing your own opportunity cost for taking that player 4 or 5 picks ahead of where they're supposed to be going.
Yeah. And again, quick asterisk one more time. If it's not possible to trade down, you got to take that player that high. I'm still comfortable taking Travis Hunter 102.
Absolutely.
And If your league market, you don't understand it or you don't know it that well, it's people you don't know very well, don't mess around with it. Don't get cute. Check out some team needs. Be like, okay, this guy might be a risk to take him, kind of feel out the board. There's ways that
Sometimes
you can kind
ask.
of,
Like,
sometimes
seriously.
ask. Literally, I've asked people and been like, hey, are you interested in trading up to this 102? And they'll be like, I'm just going to sit here and take, I think I'm comfortable with either of Travis Hunter or Ted McMillan at 104. And they'll just tell me who they're targeting.
Yeah. No, like genuinely, I think that's another thing that people don't realize is as long as you have healthy conversations with a lot of your league mates, you'll get little teeny tidbits of information like that maybe they didn't even mean to exploit.
Yeah, I've had that happen many times. And
Yeah.
like, if you're the type of person who sends terrible trades in your league, then you probably won't get teeny tidbits from your league mates. But if you get a lot of deals done, like the two of us usually do, and generally send out decent offers, then you probably won't have your league mates hating you to the point that they won't tell you anything about what they're doing. Obviously, the smarter league mates will be like, I'm not telling you what I'm doing, but there's a good chance that you might actually get some information here and there. So mistake number 4 to avoid in rookie drafts is overvaluing landing spot. Now, in simple terms, this is very easy. Don't overvalue the Clyde Edwards-Helaire landing spot over the Jonathan Taylor landing spot. That's what we all did back in 2020 when Clyde Edwards-Helaire went over Jonathan Taylor. Happened again in 2022. Sky Moore over Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. Inferior prospect goes ahead of better prospect because the landing spot was better for inferior prospect. 2023, CJ Stroud tumbled right down the board because of the Houston Texans. 2024, last year, Jaden Daniels, both of us included, overthought the landing spot a little bit. Brock Bowers, myself included, overthought the landing spot a little bit. And we had to learn that lesson the hard way. So here's an easy tip. A wide receiver, generally speaking, landing spot's pretty overrated because situations change quickly in the NFL. Quarterbacks change teams, offensive schemes and coordinators change all the time. If the wide receiver was really talented, had great film, analytical profile, production, everything that you wanted to see, people overthought Malik Neighbors last year.
Speaking of Malik Neighbors, I'm sure in some leagues, people probably said Caleb Williams went overall, Rome Odunze going to the Bears. I want Caleb Williams number 1 for the long term over Malik Neighbors. Well, now the difference is Malik Neighbors is a 1-2 turn startup pick. Rome Odunze, as much as I still like him, probably more of your 4th round caliber startup pick. There is a difference there. And I did think both of us, I mean, for the most part, I think across the industry, people realized that Neighbors was a better prospect than Odunze, but people were willing to forgo that once they saw the difference in landing spot. And full transparency, I do think specifically at quarterback, running back, and tight end, landing spot matters a little bit more. You're talking about potential immediate opportunity, schematic advantages. I think it matters more at those positions specifically. But like you said, at wide receiver, it's about getting on the field and it's about earning your volume. And the best players will always rise to the top.
Yeah, short-term factors like Luther Burden being a good example of this, Emeka Egbuka being a good example of this.
Yep.
Who your target competition is, that shit changes quickly in the NFL. Like by next year, like one or both of those players on each of those teams might not be an issue anymore. They may have traded DJ Moore, Mike Evans might retire. Like we don't know what's going to happen there. You just trust a talented receiver to be good when he's on the field. If Luther Burden has a 750-yard, 8-touchdown rookie season, but he only played 70% of the snaps and had a 29% targets per route run, he's going to be highly valuable in Dynasty. And he makes DJ Moore probably expendable at that point too. So it doesn't really matter what the immediate opportunity is as much at wide receiver as it does for quarterback. Because, for example, at quarterback, you got to start for your team. Michael Penix, for example, last year, people had concerns. How long is it going to be until he starts? Running back, you got to start for your team. If there's a Breece Hall ahead of you on the depth chart, you're probably not going to start over that player, which is why a guy like Zach Charbonnet fell in rookie drafts when he came out in 2023. Tight end, we've seen guys come in like Harold Fannin this year. Comes in, David Njoku's ahead of him on the depth chart.
Yeah, exactly. Again, we're not saying that landing spot is useless. We're more so saying that landing spot is contextualized. Like you said, for tight end, a quarterback, running back, immediate opportunity, schematic advantages. We're more so saying that you can't elevate a player past a tier break. If you evaluated that players were ahead of other players based on your tiers going into the draft, it's fine to adjust within the tier. It is not fine to now vault a player on a worse tier ahead of a player that you evaluated as being better. I mean, for example, if somebody wanted to say, hey, Omarion Hampton was my 105 pre-draft, but because he got such a great landing spot first round, that's perfectly fine to have.
He was literally my 105 pre-draft. Yeah, that's exactly the perfect situation for me. I had Omarion Hampton below Judkins, below Egbuka, and below Cam Ward pre-draft. And Hunter and Genty are the only two guys that are ahead of him still now, because on his upper range of outcomes, he got first round draft capital to a scheme and a landing spot that was perfect for him.
Yeah, whereas the inverse of that would be somebody saying, "Oh, I hate to keep throwing dirt on RJ Harvey, but he's just such an easy point to figure in this specific rookie draft." But somebody saying, "Oh, RJ Harvey's now my 107," when they had him as their RB11 in the class going into the draft.
Yeah, and conversely, Judkins is a good example of this for me too. I had him 104 going into rookie drafts before the draft, and now he's my 107, 108 because, Cleveland half decent landing spot for volume, but they also drafted Sampson. We don't really know what the quarterback situation is. He fell to his lower range of outcomes, in my personal opinion.
Yep.
Mistake number 5 to avoid in rookie drafts is not factoring in fit. And this is for probably ball knowers only, in terms of if you understand football pretty highly. If you're a new Dynasty player, this is probably less applicable, but I do think one of the more underrated edges in fantasy football landing spot wise, when we evaluate these landing spots, everybody goes for the vanilla surface level. Who's their quarterback? How much target competition do they have? That kind of stuff. But if you understand schemes, if you understand best fit pre-draft because you did the research on the prospect, for example, you and I both recognize that Omarion Hampton's best fit was a gap scheme. Guess where he went? Second highest gap scheme in the NFL in the Los Angeles Chargers. That's an excellent fit. For example, 2 years ago, Devon Achane, what did I write in our draft guide? He needs to go to a wide zone 49ers-like scheme. Where did he go? Wide zone, Miami Dolphins, run game coordinator who worked for the 49ers.
Hey, another one, Bo Nix, for example, lands with the Denver Broncos. What did we say all pre-draft? He is the perfect quarterback for Sean Payton. Get the ball out of his hands, keep the chains rolling. Guess where he went? He went to the Denver Broncos. Guess where he is now? He's a guy going on the 2-3 turn in a lot of your startup drafts. This is the main differentiator, right? Because I've seen comments before when we've made these videos say, well, how are you going to say in one mistake, overvalue a landing spot is a mistake, but then the next factor is not factoring in fit? Wouldn't that be this? No, it is not the same thing. And let me specify why it's not. When we're saying overvaluing landing spots, people might look at that and be like, Sky Moore goes second round to the Kansas City Chiefs. He's catching passes from Patrick Mahomes. Let's take him over Chris Olave. And guess what? In some leagues, I made that mistake. That's what we learned from. We're specifically pointing to the fact of fit being, okay, guess what? Jack Bech, for example, lands with the Las Vegas Raiders. His quarterback is Geno Smith there. We saw Geno Smith have a lot of success throwing to his slot in Seattle with Jackson Smith and Jigba. Yes, Jacoby Myers probably figures into that role right away, but Jack Bech has the long-term capability of being the power slot for Las Vegas. That is the type of factor we're talking about. The fit in the scheme of the offense, rather than just saying he's catching passes from Mahomes, he's now this high.
Yeah, Puka Nacua, good example of that. Robert Woods 2.0 coming out of school, goes to Sean McVay, who utilized him perfectly in breaking routes, out breaking routes, that kind of stuff. Worthy, fastest player in the league, goes to Patrick Mahomes. That's exactly what you wanted to see. Bucky Irving goes to a zone running scheme. Liam Cohn draws it up perfectly for him. We didn't know this at the time, and obviously I wish I had more Bucky Irving because of it, but it was a perfect fit for him. McConkey, I was big Lad McConkey was an excellent fit. Brian Thomas Jr., same thing. And all three of those 4, 5, and 6 wide receivers, Worthy, McConkey, and Brian Thomas Jr. last year, you and I both said we're like, they all landed in nutted landing spots for what they do. And they all hit.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So going through some of the fits in this class too, like we can even just quickly, any fits that stand out to you that you really like. I think it's important maybe to tell people exactly what we're talking about when it comes to fits in this year's class, because it factors in. Like, I mean, Genty's Genty. It doesn't really matter. We talked about Hampton being a great fit already. I think Hunter's an excellent fit for the Jaguars because of what Liam Cohn can do creatively. Tedero McMillan. I talked about this in, I think, 2 videos ago. Ted McMillan's college quarterback and high school quarterback is basically just a shitty version of Bryce Young. Like, Bryce Young is Noah Fafita on crack. So I think that Ted McMillan and Bryce Young are going to be really, really good working well together. Bryce Young's great throwing on the move. Ted McMillan's excellent on crossing routes and that kind of thing. That's one fit that I think is an excellent one.
A couple of the other ones, Caleb Johnson going to the Arthur Smith zone scheme with the Pittsburgh Steelers, one of the best zone runners in college football this year, has that ideal size as well, 6'1", 225 pounds. I think he has the opportunity to be the lead ball carrier for Arthur Smith. We've seen Tyler Algier, for example, over 5 yards a pop, 1,000 yards as a rookie. Obviously, Derrick Henry, not comparing Caleb Johnson to Derrick Henry, but we've seen implementations of a bigger 6', 220-pound back having success with that Arthur Smith scheme. Another one, for example, Colson Loveland landing with the Bears. 10th overall obviously is a given.
Burden too, for what it's worth.
Yeah, but we quite literally saw, where did he get his most from in Detroit? the slot wide receiver position, the tight end position. Luther Burn, long-term slot for Chicago. Colson Loveland has the opportunity to develop into a Sam Laporta level tight end. Same thing with Matthew Golden, lands with Green Bay. What has Green Bay needed? They've needed a true separator, 3-level separator for the longest time since Devontae Adams left. They get Matthew Golden in the draft. Oh, they have 3 other wide receivers in Green Bay. If they thought that, they wouldn't have drafted one at 23.
Yeah, no, there's a lot that you can point to. I mean, Henderson going to an offense that throws to the receiving back a lot too makes a lot of sense. Igbuka is Godwin. Like Emeka Igbuka is Chris Godwin, so he is a perfect fit for that scheme. Tyler Warren, I think, is a good fit for the Indianapolis Colts scheme. I could keep going, man. Like Byshell Tootin going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's exactly like Bucky Irving, only faster. Like even digging deeper down the board. Who did Seattle's head coach is escaping my name. Who did he practice against? Mike McDonald. Who did he practice against in Baltimore?
Baltimore, Munkin. Lamar.
No, the quarterback.
Lamar, Lamar.
Yeah. Who did he draft?
He drafted Jalen Milroe.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you can see fits across the board. I mean, you can even point to the fact that Cam Scatterbo to the Giants. We saw last year a little bit of fumbling issues, a little bit of reliability issues in short yardage situations for Tracy. They tried to put Devin Singletary in there. He was also prone to some mistakes. Guess what? Now they get Cam Scatterbo, who doesn't make mistakes between the tackles. Let's just say that lightly.
Yeah, no. Alec Manor threw to his slot receiver in college. Big slot receiver comes in for him in Tennessee. This one's one that maybe you didn't think of. Jim Harbaugh, moved tight end, was his number 1 receiver at Michigan. Who did they draft? A moved tight end and Aronde Gatson on day 3.
That's a very good point. I was also going to point to the fact that who are the coaches now for the New York Jets?
That would be the Detroit Lions coaching staff.
Aaron Glenn and Tanner Engstrom specifically coming over from the Detroit Lions, who worked under Ben Johnson. I already mentioned Ben Johnson working with Colson Loveland to become a Sam Laporta. Well, guess what? 42nd overall, Mason Taylor goes to the New York Jets. The first thing we hear on call from Tanner Engstrom is, you fit perfectly in my vision for this offense. Not
to mention he's probably more athletic than Colson Loveland and as athletic as Sam Laporta too. So that's definitely something we could keep going. Again, look for the fits, look for the schematic fits. Where did the coach come from? What did they use before? That kind of stuff. Anyways, mistake number 6 is a little bit of a balancing act with everything that we just talked about. Balancing post-draft reaction, ergo, you thought a player was going to go in the 3rd round, he goes undrafted. Maybe Isaiah Bond is a good example of this. With pre-draft conviction, because we all have opinions pre-draft. The first extreme is every year we see people stick to their guns no matter what happens in the NFL draft. People still took Malik Willis in the 1st round of rookie drafts after sliding to round 3. People this year will still reach on Shadur Sanders even after he slid to round 5. People still took Justin Ross in round 2 after going undrafted.
That's quite the story.
Yeah, knucklehead watch too, like on Isaiah Bond, for example. Like, the NFL told you what they think of players like these. And I'm not saying that the NFL can't be wrong sometimes. I'm just saying you have to adjust your own expectations. If you were willing to take Malik Willis 102 thinking he was going to go in the 1st round, you need to understand, okay, maybe I want to be ahead of market on this player. Like, for example, me with Jalen Milroe, I would have been willing to take Jalen Milroe in the 1st round if he had gone in the 1st round. But I recognize that 3rd round draft capital, I can't really take him higher than like the mid to late 2nd round.
It's about absorbing and applying, like you said. You don't want to be too leaning one side or the other. And in fact, we literally just finished the Canadian election. You don't want to be leaning too far left, too far right in this instance. Let's just say the NFL draft is the far right of information. The pre-draft conviction that you had is the far left. You want to be somewhere in the middle to balance everything out, right? And that's how I'm viewing it with these rookie drafts, for example. Yeah, Cam Ward went 101, but if you are all in on Omarion Hampton to the Chargers at 22, don't just say, hey, you know what? Cam Ward went 1st overall, running back at 22. You got to take the 1st overall quarterback. Like, there will be people that take Cam Ward at 102 in their drafts, specifically because he went 1st overall.
Yeah.
We knew that.
It's a balancing act, too. The other extreme, I think, too, is the NFL took some bad receivers on day 2, man. Like Isaac Tesla, Arian Smith, Savion Williams, like, just because the NFL took these guys over Alec Manor and Jalen,
they get it wrong all the time.
They get that shit wrong all the time. People drafted Terrace Marshall, Rondale Moore, and De'Ami Brown over Amon-Ra, even though Amon-Ra was a better prospect than all of them, frankly, and he slid to day 3. Remember in 2023, people gave me shit for drafting Josh Downs over Jonathan Mingo, and I did it every single time, and it worked out.
Yeah, so I think specifically in the first 15 to 20 picks is when balancing them matters the most. But specifically when you're in like the mid third or later, lean more on the conviction side than what the NFL draft is telling you. Like you said, if the decision at 39th overall in your rookie draft is between Isaac Tesledge solely because he went in the third round or Jalen Royals who went in the fourth to the Chiefs, take the guy that you liked pre-draft at that point. If the decision is, like you said, Tyler Shuck in the early third round versus maybe you like one of the running backs like, I don't know, DJ Giddens or Jaden Blue. Take the running back that you like in the advantageous spot. Just because Tyler Shuck went 40th overall, are we even for certain that he will beat out Spencer Rattler? I am not.
No, I'm not. I'm not certain on that either. Again, it's a balancing act. Obviously, don't go crazy here and be like,
Yeah.
"Hey, I thought Shadur was the best quarterback in this class, so I'm going to take him, even though he went in the fifth
Outside of the
round
top
over
20
Cam Ward."
picks, I would say. Because like we said, in the first 15 to 20 picks, like we mentioned the term of opportunity cost, maneuvering the draft board, taking the guys you like, but at better opportunity cost, like I said. Once you're outside of that range, like you're outside the first 25 picks, trust your board. Like that's where I'm at. First two rounds specifically, maneuver the board. The back half of the draft, trust your board.
Yeah, it doesn't always work too. Like I gave an example of I took Josh Downs over Jonathan Mingo. Like last year, I took Troy Franklin over a lot of players that had better rookie seasons than Troy Franklin. But I was trusting my pre-draft board. I
Jalen
was
Wright
like,
for me.
yeah, like I'll take Troy Franklin, Jalen Wright, guys like that at the end of the second round, where we took those guys early in the third round sometimes, where we ended up getting them. Like I can live with that mistake. I can live with that mistake, knowing that I was trusting my board at that point. Again, you're not going to hit on every pick. All these mistakes, you're still going to miss on picks, even if you follow all of them perfectly.
There's a big difference scuffing your 301 versus scuffing your 105.
Yeah, exactly. And again, make sound decisions. If you got to take a fourth round receiver over a third round running back or a third round running back over a second round wide receiver, it's not the end of the world if you thought one was a much better prospect going into the draft than before, especially if you did do the research on the class before the draft, understood kind of what needed to happen. Like a guy like DJ Giddens you brought up, like I thought he needed to sit for a year. I thought he could learn from a veteran running back, and that's the situation he lands in, which I think is an advantageous situation. I would have said the same thing, though, about Trey Benson last year, and it didn't really work out for him, at least to this point in his career so far. So it's always going to be, what are you doing to make the best possible decisions? Don't do anything rash. Don't do anything super radical. Mistake number 7 also is, if
Listen
you
up.
trust, this is a really important one. If you trust us, that's great. We appreciate your support. Use our rankings, draft based on them. Do not come back at us and tell us that you knew the whole time that you should have taken X player and you took Y player because we told you to. Make your own mistakes, guys. If you don't like something that we say, if you don't like Travis Hunter 102, you don't think he should even go in the first round, period. Don't draft him.
Like it's that simple. If you vehemently disagree with a point that we've made, then disagree. Make your own mistakes. Absorb your own information. Listen, even if we're all the Dynasty content that you absorb, or we're one of 5 or 10 different sites that you listen to or different YouTube channels that you listen to, make your own mistake. Take as much information as you can, learn as much as you can, develop your own informed opinions. And guess what? Maybe we will make a mistake on something that you were not making that mistake on, or vice versa. Maybe you had conviction on a player that we were lower on. Make your own mistakes. Don't listen to us blindly. Absorb the information we're giving to you and make informed opinions. Sorry, a little tangent, but I had to raise my voice.
Yeah, of course. We've had people say, hey, like, you guys were wrong about that thing. Dude, that's what makes Dynasty fun. That's like, we're not going to be right on everything. Like, I remember I was adamantly saying that Rashee Rice was a complete and utter bum in 2023. And I would say, like, even though he's kind of had a rocky,
for me,
he's definitely had a better career than I thought he was going to this point in time. And here's the nice thing about this too. We're active Dynasty players. We're in 10 plus leagues. If I tell you that Rashee Rice is a bum, I didn't get any shares of him. So I took that on the chin just like you did. And vice versa. I told you guys all, get Jalen Coker everywhere. Get Tucker Kraft everywhere the year he came out. Guess how much? Get Chase Brown everywhere the year he came out. We have a lot of those players, and we can all celebrate that together. But when we get something wrong, you're allowed to dunk on us, go nuts. But when we get something wrong and you followed us, even though you knew you shouldn't have, that's when we have a problem with it.
So adding to that, the making your own mistake aspect. It's okay to make your own mistakes, but what do you do to learn from those mistakes? Prime example, we'll talk about the FSC Listener League, our longest running Dynasty league with our listeners. My team in that league won the championship this year. My team in that league might be one of the greatest Dynasty teams that you'll see assembled. However, with that Dynasty team, we date back to May 27th, 2022, where I traded away Amon St. Brown, a future 2023 first, a future 2023 second, and a future 2023 third at the time for Cam Akers and Treylon Burks.
Tough.
In the same league that I have Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon Barkley, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Puka Nacua, the list goes on. You can make mistakes, but how do you rebound from them and how do you make your team better?
And ideally, you make a lot less of them than you make hits.
Exactly. Yeah, I could talk about my hits too, but we don't have that too long of a video to do.
We'll talk about our miss. What is the Wolf of Wall Street quote? I only tell my customers about my misses because I have so few, or whatever. Like that's we'll talk about our misses, but we're not going to talk about the hits because that is not us being humble. So it's better to talk about the misses because then you guys can see that we're actually human beings who miss on stuff. But anyways, if you enjoyed this is kind of just an aside, long tangent about what not to do in your rookie draft. I think this is a really good conversation to have every year because there's going to be somebody who's watching this video who was ready to take Shadur Sanders 202 or something like that. And we may have just talked them off of a ledge kind of thing. Yeah. So if you do actually want our rankings and you trust our opinion, you liked what you heard here, head on over to flockfantasy.com. It is linked down below in the pinned comment. Use the promo code FSE when you sign up. 30% off, 7 days for free, annual free team review if you sign up for a Mother Flocker package. We're going to be doing a bunch of those team reviews on Wednesday afternoon, either live or maybe we'll pre-record them, not sure yet. I am going to the Leafs Senators game tonight, so I'm very excited about that. Hopefully my Leafs can take it down and win this series 4-1. A little bit mad at Ottawa after last night, so we'll see what happens. And yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. If you guys want to see all of our rankings, like I said, go check that out down below. Draft guides updated, prospect models are updated, all that stuff. If that interests you, check it out. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. But peace out, and we'll talk to you soon.